The secret to a strong and good-looking surface on a garage floor is applying a garage floor epoxy. Many people call it epoxy paint, but it isn't actually. A garage floor epoxy and epoxy paint are two different products. Epoxy provides a very tough coating to a garage floor than paint would. Moreover, while regular paint is easier to apply, epoxy is a lot trickier. However, applying garage floor epoxy takes a very detailed explanation. Garage floor epoxy can be done by one person. However, it is advisable to carry it out with a minimum of 2 people. This guarantees that you will be able to cover all parts of your garage floor within a short period. The materials you would be working with to achieve this include 1. Tarpaulin. 2. Paddle mixer. 3. Paint stir sticks. 4. Containers. 5. Latex gloves. 6. Plastic drop cloths. 7. Chip brushes. 8. Rollers. 9. Tape. 9. Spiked shoes. Note that the purpose of the spiked shoes is to allow you to walk out onto the coating. Suitable conditions for epoxying a garage floor. Before you start anything, you should know the temperature and humidity that is best for applying epoxy on a garage floor. This is because epoxy is influenced by the weather. Most epoxy coatings can be applied within a temperature range of 55 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. However, temperatures between 70 and 80 degrees are also considered ideal. Humidity and dew points should also be considered. Do not apply epoxy if the humidity is forecasted to be over 85%. Also, it is not good if the temperature of the concrete is 5 degrees or less above the dew point. This is because any form of moisture will have a hostile effect on how the epoxy bonds to the surface of the garage floor. Prep your garage floor for the epoxy. The major reason garage floor coatings don't stay is as a result of poor preparation of the garage floor. Therefore, it is important to learn how to prep it properly. Often, the epoxy is usually pegged with a fault if the floor is not properly prepped. Many times, the instructions on how to apply epoxy on a garage floor is vague. So, it is important to understand the processes involved in prepping a garage floor for the application of epoxy. More importantly, read through the instructions on the application of the epoxy before you begin. If you have any questions, you can place a call to the company you purchased the product from. Inspect the garage floor. The first stage of prepping your garage floor is to inspect it. The reason you would need to inspect it is to make sure the floor is the kind that will accept a coating. Epoxy does not adhere to sealed or painted concrete. This includes any sealed product that was applied to the concrete. If you do not have a sealer, you would need to remove the seal by mechanical means, one of which is grinding. Moreover, it is possible to test for sealers. One way to do this is by sprinkling water on the surface of your garage floor. If the water beads up immediately and does not turn the surface of the garage floor darker, then there is likely a sealer that needs to be removed. But if the water does not bead and the surface of the garage floor does not turn darker, then there's no sealer on it. If you're still having doubts about whether your garage floor is sealed or not, you could etch the concrete to prepare the surface of the garage floor. Before doing this completely, apply some acid etch to a small area to test it first. If it begins to turn yellow and emit bubbles, you do not have a sealer on the concrete. However, if the acid just stays there and doesn't react, then you have a sealer on the concrete. Run a thorough inspection on the surface of your garage floor. Take note of any openings, cracks, or splinters because the epoxy will not fill in cracks. If the concrete on your garage floor has just been poured, you would need to leave it to cure for a minimum of 30 days. Curing concrete will come apart if it is installed too early as it is still releasing moisture. Test the moisture of the concrete. After a thorough inspection of the surface of your garage floor, check the garage floor for areas of damp concrete or efflorescence. Efflorescence is a powdery substance that is most times white in color. It is usually formed on the surface when moisture coming up from the under the slab reacts with excess lime and salts in the concrete. When the moisture evaporates, the white substance is what is usually left behind. If you live in a humid area, concrete can collect moisture at the surface of the garage floor from condensation. This is also one of the ways efflorescence can be formed. Efflorescence from condensation will likely not affect the coating of a garage floor if it is removed before the epoxy is applied. If there are visible signs of moisture, you might want to carry out a calcium chloride test to know if epoxy can be applied to your garage floor. Most epoxy products can stand 4 pounds of moisture flow per 1,000 square feet per day. Try consulting the manufacturer of the epoxy first about the outcome of your calcium chloride test if you have moisture issues. Sometimes, the garage floor might look dry and then you decide not to test for moisture. However, moisture could be evaporating from the surface of the garage floor a lot quicker than it forms and not be visible to the eyes. The least you could do is to carry out a plastic sheet test if there are no visible signs of moisture on the concrete. Often, a concrete sealer will help you manage efflorescence. Clean the garage floor. If you're sure that the garage floor will accept an epoxy coating, you can now go ahead and clean it. If the garage floor is new or free from greasy remains, all you have to do is some sweeping. Note that it is very important to remove any grease stains from the concrete and pay careful attention to those places that have absorbed tire dressing because those areas will act as a sealer. They will make water repel and will not allow the epoxy to adhere well. This also includes old glue and mastics. If you want to protect your walls from water while cleaning, it would be a good idea to place some plastic drop cloths on the wall. Profile the garage floor. After the top of your garage door has been cleaned, the next thing to do is to profile it. Profiling means exposing the pores on the surface of the concrete on your garage floor so the epoxy can flow into them and make a good bond. Do not forget that you could either acid etch or grind your garage floor to get the proper profile. Many professional installers and epoxy manufacturers prefer grinding the floor. However, a proper acid etch is suitable as well. If you decide to grind the floor, make sure you vacuum the entire floor thoroughly after grinding. Run your fingers over the concrete of the garage floor. If your fingertips get very white, it means there is dust and you would need to vacuum all over again. However, if you decide to acid etch, allow the garage floor to dry completely before applying the epoxy. If you do not, the moisture that is being released from inside the concrete can create bubbles and make the water come apart. Unless you are using a water-based epoxy primer that allows you to apply epoxy on damp floors, you would need a minimum of a day or two to enable the floor dry completely. If the weather is humid, it might take a longer time. Finish the repairs of your garage floor. Now is the time to make repairs wherever they are needed. Do not use a latex crack repair product when applying an epoxy coating. Latex products are soft compared to the concrete and the epoxy. Moreover, latex repair products will get smaller as time goes and can cause depression beneath the floor coating. It can also make the epoxy coating to crack under distress since the epoxy is not flexible. Have in mind that when repairing the cracks on the surface of the garage door, it is important to make sure that the affected areas are smooth and flat. Otherwise, the repaired areas can come out through the coating. One way to do this is to grind those areas after the repair has cured to create a smooth level transition that will not show through. You could also apply color flakes if you did extensive repairs. Go heavy with the color flakes because they help to hide all the flaws on the concrete. In part 2 of this 2-parts presentation, we will take you through the process of applying the epoxy properly. We urge you to watch it on this channel also. If you've enjoyed this video, click the subscribe button below. And hit the notification bell so you'll know once we post a new video. Also, drop a comment below so we can know your thoughts. Finally, don't forget to check the description below for more details. And visit our site, www.zimgarage.com for more awesome garage content like this.